I finished this video last year begging for NACS to be better in 2025, and was it? No, not really. There was again a whole lot of disappointment throughout the year, but nevertheless, it was disastrously entertaining in the way that I believe only NA is capable of achieving. So today, we're looking back at 2025 and the embarrassing Counter-Strike moments that can only be described as NACS.
Seriously, dude, it's time for a tan.
We're going to go ahead and actually start with one of NACS's high points this year, the Blast Austin Major. The first major in NA in over 7 years. Us fans were of course excited to see such an important event finally back in North America after so many years, but not everybody going to this major had such good intentions. Inside the arena, there were reports of people trying to pull off API scams. These scammers would pretend to be Blast staff and ask fans if they wanted to participate in a giveaway or get a free item or something, and then have them scan a QR code, but this QR code would lead to an API scam that would steal their Steam account and all of their skins. And Blast had to issue an official warning to try and help keep people safe. After this warning got shared around a bunch, one guy on Reddit came forward to say that this might have been about him. He was a volunteer for Blast and asking people to participate in a survey, try to get Blast some feedback. And Blast confirmed that this guy was a volunteer, but they also confirmed that there were still reports of people trying to pull off this same API scam. So these guys weren't just trying to harm CS fans and steal their skins, but they were also interfering with Blast's actual operations. I'm not sure how many people might have been affected by these scammers, but honestly, it surprises me that it took this long for someone to try and pull off an IRL scam like this. Generally at CS events, you don't really question anyone who looks like they might be staff, because you don't want to cause trouble and potentially get thrown out of the event that you've spent a lot of time and money traveling to, so some people might have just blindly trusted these supposed staff members and ended up losing their skins.
Drink a protein shake, you're looking all skinny, bud.
You may or may not remember the name FishTheScammer from last year's video, but I'm gonna refresh your memory. He was a Twitch streamer who also started his own org called Fluffy Aimers, which was a pretty prominent team in NA for a while. At least until November last year when FishTheScammer disappeared off the face of the earth while still owing his players tens of thousands of dollars. So yeah, he pulled a pretty cut and clear exit scam, screwing over his players and leaving his investors to clean up the mess. We had no idea where FishTheScammer had gone or what he'd been doing with this money until June this year when he made a sudden reappearance playing poker. Yup, this goober was spotted on a poker live stream in Texas, and if I had to take a guess, I'd say that's exactly what this scumbag has been up to ever since he disappeared last year, gambling away that $33,000 that he stole from his team. What makes this so crazy to me though is that this spud was wearing a Fluffy Aimers jacket and just using his normal alias. Like, you'd figure after you pull off a scam, you'd want to keep a very low profile, but this bozo didn't hide who he was at all. He could play poker with any name he wants, and he decides to use the name that he scammed with while wearing merch of the org he scammed. It's almost like he wanted to be spotted. It's so bizarre to me. People online made this poker lodge aware of who this guy was, and they promptly banned him from their tables. But honestly, I doubt that FishTheScammer cares. Like, he didn't care about scamming his players or investors or friends, so why would he care about being banned from a poker lodge? He'll just find a new one to play at.
FishTheScammer's last haircut was in 2011.
And for those curious, no, he is not a good poker player. He lost $600 in this session.
Guess you're showing us how to win the next game with that one.
What should I do?
One of the other good things to come from NACS this year though was the rising importance of events like Fragadelphia. Basically, VRS has given much more impact to these LAN events, so we've been seeing plenty of European and Brazilian teams flying over to NA for them, which I think is fantastic for the scene. We need these stronger international teams to play against to improve. Well, Fragadelphia becoming important has been great for NACS. This of course didn't happen without controversy. Frag Knoxville was one of Fragadelphia's big events this year, and man, did a lot of interesting things happen around this event. A few weeks before the event actually, Frag had to ban a team called OhioMeatWagon for the reason of ticket scalping. But whether or not scalping is the right word to use here is honestly to me very debatable. OhioMeatWagon had signed up to Fragville very early on, and they had also booked non-refundable hotel rooms. So when an event came up at the same time as Frag that they'd rather play in, the team was basically out the few $100s they'd already spent to book everything. But it was around this time that they were approached by an unnamed big CS team about selling their ticket to this sold out event. Now, tickets to frag events are of course non-refundable and non-transferable, but they thought of a loophole where they could just register the other team's players as their own, so that way they're not selling the ticket and the other team is also able to play in their place. Tickets to frag events usually cost like $500 to $600, but this big team was offering them $1,400 as well as a cut of the money they would win, and OhioMeatWagon needed to recoup that non-refundable money they'd already spent on everything, so they went through with this deal. But Frag caught on to this scheme and gave OhioMeatWagon an indefinite ban. They wanted to set a precedent and fully discourage this kind of behavior in the future, but honestly it kind of irritates me that they only punished the seller of the ticket and not the buyer, especially when it was the buyer that had initially approached the seller in this situation. Like, if you want to discourage behavior, you need to punish all sides of it, but this big name buyer surely wasn't punished because of who they were. So who was this buyer anyway? Well, no publications ever confirmed it, but like 99% it was Ninjas in Pajamas. Like I said, this was a sold out event and Nip's name never appeared on the team list, but then suddenly just a few days before Fragville started, Nip is just like, oh yeah, we're going to that too. So if you needed any more reason to dislike Nip, here it is. Getting another team banned while they get no punishment at all simply because they are a big name organization. Thank goodness NRG stomped them in the grand final. But honestly, this is far from the worst thing that happened at Fragville.
Did anybody just see that?
Chicken Coop. Super cool name and logo, but the same can't be said about their players after Frag Knoxville. Obviously, they were one of the teams competing here, but right after the event concluded, Chicken Coop immediately dropped the entire team, saying that this was because of the actions of an individual that did not align with the org's values. Like, what possibly could have happened here? It's gotta take something particularly heinous for an organization to suddenly just drop their entire team. We had no idea what happened, but a community member named Sav came out to give us the details, saying that this was because of a physical altercation with their player J-Chance. One of the nights in Knoxville, after all the matches had been played that day, a bunch of people from Frag went to hang out at a bar. J-Chance got quite drunk and was chatting up a girl, making a bunch of unwanted vulgar comments and physical contact after she'd already told him multiple times to stop. After the bar closed, the girl was just gonna go back to their friend's Airbnb, but J-Chance for whatever reason had the idea that he was invited too after already being told no. Sav tried to step in and check on the girl, but J-Chance physically held her back because he was determined to go home with someone that night. This brought on some shoving, which resulted in J-Chance pushing the girl to the ground before he stormed out of there. In the morning, both Sav and the girl were encountered by the other players of Chicken Coop, minus Seabass. This wasn't really to check on them and see if they were okay, but rather to ask them to keep quiet about the whole situation. Obviously, this kind of behavior isn't acceptable, so they nor anyone else kept quiet about it. And there was still a considerable amount of frag people at the bar when this happened, so everybody saw this and they all have basically the same story of the event. Seabass, the one Chicken Coop player who didn't participate in this, renounced his teammates' behavior, so props to him, but just, yeah, some disgusting behavior all around. J-Chance for not understanding what no means, and his teammates for trying to cover it up.
You're fucking shitting me right now with this.
So, Wildcard had a pretty good 2024, but 2025 wasn't going so great for them. Like, yeah, they qualified for the Austin Major, but they had to use some trickery to get there. After the Austin Major though, Wildcard decided to finally start making some roster moves, but let's just say that none of these roster moves made any fucking sense. Wildcard started by benching their veteran IGL Stanislaw as well as their best player FooZi, and they replaced these two pillars of their team with one of their academy players and a totally unproven 20-year-old. And Sonic, who was actually already making plans to leave the team, is suddenly appointed to be Wildcard's IGL, so you could guess how seriously he was taking this. This new Wildcard roster only plays one single event before Susp says, yeah, you know what, I don't really want to play on this team without FooZi, so he gets transfer listed. And to replace Susp, they bring Stanislaw back in just 3 weeks after they benched him. In the meantime, FooZi has been loaned out to a team called 9, and things are actually going pretty great for him. He's performing well, and 9 is qualifying for some events, and they're actually getting pretty close to the Budapest Major. But then Wildcard weren't happy with how their academy player friend was performing, so they recall FooZi. And like, just imagine being FooZi here. Like, you've had plenty of your own frustrations playing for Wildcard, and then you're nonsensically cut while being their best player, but then you find a new team where you're actually happy and succeeding, but then you get contractually pulled back to this organization that clearly doesn't respect you. Not to mention that the team now no longer has your Swedish compatriot on it, and your leader also just went through the same bullshit of being benched and then brought back to the lineup. So now half the team is just feeling dejected and disrespected, not to mention poor Friend, who was promoted from the academy lineup, but Wildcard also filled his spot after they promoted him, so now that he's off the main lineup, he can't even go back to the academy lineup. So they've now just got him tied up in contract hell. Just absolutely nothing Wildcard was doing was making any sense to anyone. But while at Frag Knoxville, Fuzi was giving an interview and naturally he was asked about the state of the team, and his short response simultaneously explained everything while painting the entire Wildcard org as clowns.
We as players and the team, I don't think we had so much to say in it. I mean, obviously not me because I got benched, right? So, I mean, I'm not sure what happened. I heard ChatGPT was involved a bit with taking suggestions for players.
ChatGPT. Because if there's anybody who knows about human personalities, how they work together, and how to manage them, it's a fucking computer. This wildcard roster only survived 2 more months before it fully imploded. So if you want to know how to destroy a major team in just 5 months, ask ChatGPT.
What the hell happened to my shit?
Legacy Kingdom, not to be confused with Legacy, was a young Canadian org that had teams in games like Apex as well as Valorant. And in August, they made their jump into Counter-Strike. They signed a male team at the start of August, and they even signed a female team at the end of the month, but shit hit the fan basically instantly. Why though? Well, September 10th was the day that Charlie Kirk was shot. I'm not going to share my thoughts on the situation, but some people that did were the players on Legacy's women's team. Now, I don't have screenshots of the tweets they sent out, so I don't know exactly what was said, but the consensus is that they were offensive and insensitive, so Legacy Kingdom asked their players to take down these tweets and apologize. The players complied with this request, except for one of them, Abby, who deleted their tweet but refused to apologize, and so Legacy Kingdom went ahead and kicked them from the team. Now, getting fired from your job just 2 weeks after you got it obviously isn't a very good look, especially under such messy circumstances and PR, but turns out this was just the start of Legacy Kingdom's woes. Because just 2 days later, the players on Legacy's men's team came out to say that they were missing payments from the org. They also complained about some ridiculous NDA agreements, and as such, they were leaving the organization. Now, as an org, you'd hate to lose just one team like that, but Legacy's women's team also left just a few days later as the organization basically collapsed overnight. Legacy Kingdom deleted all of their social media, and one of their big investors put out a video apologizing and expressing how disappointed he was in how things played out with this organizational mess.
I'm just disappointed that this is how all the things had to go down with this project.
So this PR mess quickly snowballed into the entire organization collapsing.
Man, have you seen your aim? Your aim sucks dick.
ESEA Advanced. You know, that league that can qualify you for ESL Challenger League, the biggest league in North America? Well, Season 50 of Advanced had a very surprise winner this year. A Peruvian team named Lobo Army just glided through playoffs with relative ease and earned themselves $4,300, as well as spots in all of the upcoming Challenger League Cups. It was pretty baffling for NA, you know, like how can we lose our own NA league to players that aren't even from NA? Like how could we even let this happen? But that got answered on May 27th when one of the Lobo Army players received a cheating ban. SJR, who had a 1.34 rating in these playoffs mind you, caught a 2-year ban on Faceit and retroactively disqualified his team from ESEA Advanced as well as some other leagues. So a North American league being won by cheating non-North Americans is definitely something, but SJR wasn't the only player banned for cheating on this date. If you remember Rocket from last year's video, they were that team of nobodies who miracle ran their way to the RMR for the Copenhagen Major until one of their players, Emiya, got a Faceit ban for cheating and the team just imploded from there. Well, another player from that team was also caught cheating. Aleph also got a cheating ban on May 27th, and his response is one of the dumbest things I've ever read. Aleph doesn't offer an apology, but says that he got radicalized into thinking that cheating is unpunishable, and he knew that eventually he would have to satisfy his own curiosity with cheats, saying specifically that he has seen firsthand how cheating goes unpunished. Like, bro, what the fuck are you talking about? Did you completely forget how a cheating teammate disqualified you from a major RMR last year? You had a front row seat to a cheater getting punished and how they took away the biggest opportunity of your career, but now you say that they don't see repercussions? This whole response is just a big moronic nothing burger.
This is so emo, dude.
For those who don't know XotiC, basically for 7 years this guy has just been a casual semi-professional player. Like, he's incredibly skilled, but he's also an extremely mysterious guy. Like, he would disappear for months or years on end and he never even showed up to a LAN. And we didn't even know what this guy looked like until this summer when he finally made the jump to full-time CS and joined NRG. It was awesome to see this guy finally playing CS full-time after so many years, and NRG was actually doing pretty good, you know, like they won a few Fragadelphia events and they even qualified for the Budapest Major. But at the end of December, NRG announced that XotiC would be leaving Counter-Strike. But why? NRG is doing great with you and you finally got sticker money secured, so like, why leave? Well, XotiC said that with him playing CS full-time, it was becoming difficult for him to run his multiple businesses. Like, motherfucker, dude, like, only in North America is major sticker money a side hustle to selling puffer jackets. Just, I don't know, dude. If this is more financially lucrative for him, then, you know, fair enough. I don't want to bash XotiC at all, but just like as a fan, it's pretty disappointing. But, you know, again, I wish him luck in whatever he does.
I love jumping through smokes, bro. What can I say?
Last year, when Stewie2K won IEM Dallas with G2, he ended it by saying,
I'm back!
he was not in fact back yet. It'd actually be like a year and a half before Stewie returned to the headlines, and when he finally did, it was for all the wrong reasons. In October, a skins trader named Mataucat came out to say that Stewie had scammed him of about $25,000, and he had plenty of screenshots to support his claims. The two had a trade arranged where Mataucat would send his items first, and Stewie would then send the money after the 7-day trade protection was over. But after those 7 days, Stewie started running into some problems, and his solution was just to back out of the deal without giving Matau his skins back. This is when some other community members, including XQC, came out to say that they've also been scammed by Stewie like this. But like, how could someone like Stewie even get themselves into this kind of situation? Like, he's got years and years of tournament winnings, salary money, major sticker money, streaming donations and subscriptions. Why would someone like Stewie have to stoop to such a low level like this? Well, the answer is probably what you'd expect.
I've gambled, bro. I've gambled ever since I started during that time in COVID, bro, when I won the 100 grand.
It feels like it just always comes back to gambling. Stewie did promise though to repay everybody by November 1st. There was a bit of a delay, but Mataucat did get repaid on the 3rd with interest, so at least the situation got resolved, but this is still just a very bad look for one of NACS's favorite players. Despite all these blemishes on NACS this year, I'm actually pretty optimistic for 2026. I know this video is super late and that we've actually already kicked off 2026, but we've kicked it off with Frag Miami and Flom's Mythical Land, both of which were awesome events, and I know we're going to have many other awesome events coming this year. Our teams aren't looking too bad either, so I'm just excited to see what this year brings for us. That said, thank you for watching the whole video. I truly appreciate it. Like and subscribe, tell me your thoughts in the comments, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video.